So peace can only be attained when there is no need anymore to seek for something. And it is the mind that is seeking. It has always been the mind that is seeking. And we always feel so unfulfilled because we feel like we don't have that thing, whatever it is. For some people, it's safety, security, money, relationship, a better house. And for some people, it's enlightenment. So, first of all, we have to understand the mechanics of the mind. And it's really important not to just hear about the mechanics of the mind and read about the mechanics of the mind, but to really look at the mechanics of your own mind in real time, so that there is a real understanding. Otherwise, you will just know about it with your mind. But as you are knowing about it, you don't observe how the mind is knowing about it. So there is no real understanding. When you observe your mind, you start to understand how it operates and how the mechanics of the mind is exactly what is creating the search for something. If it is your desire to seek for awakening, liberation, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, then you cannot attain it through time. You cannot attain it through understanding, intellectual understanding. Basically, you cannot attain it through the mind. So it's not an attainment. Because everything you can attain, you can only attain it through the mind. You find out about it, you make a plan, and then you go get it. You go achieve it. So enlightenment is not an achievement. It is more like a loss of the achiever. Or you just see through the mechanics of the achiever. You can still use it. But you also know how to step out from it so that it is no longer making you miserable. So let's say for example, you have this question in your mind. And your mind says, I don't feel enlightened. I don't feel liberated. I'm still suffering. And I see all these enlightened, awakened people on YouTube, and they seem so happy and peaceful, and I want to become like them. I also want to have what they have. So naturally, there's automatically, you see in your own mind, if you observe it, how there is like a desire, automatically like an impulse. You cannot even do anything about it. You see, but you have to observe as it happens. Automatically, a desire is being created by the mind to attain that, and then it forms the question, okay, what should I do to get it? And if you don't observe that in that moment and see how the question itself is an illusion, then you're in for a long search. You see, because you have the question, how can I attain this enlightenment? How should I meditate? What should I do this? How should I do this? And then you will look for a lot of videos and books of people explaining how to get it, and they all have like different approaches. Some people show you about the direct path, the pathless path, as Rupert Spira is saying it, or there's a gradual path. And then basically you cannot end your search because you feel like you never get this answer that is actually giving you this aha moment, so that you can finally stop seeking. What you have to understand is that the liberated state, if you want to call it that, is a state in which there are no answers and no questions. It is like when you are walking in nature, you can just feel that nature itself just is. There's nothing to fix or solve and understand. There's just existence. And what we want, what we are missing The reason why we feel like we miss something is because we have lost exactly this natural state. A state of being where there are no questions and answers needed. So we have to look at the mechanism of the mind. Look at it in yourself. How it is always generating questions and then looking for an answer, and then it is endlessly seeking for an answer just to get an aha moment. That will not, it will satisfy you if you find it maybe for a short time, but then it's not, you haven't arrived yet. So the mind will form a new question. What should I do about this? And now I feel like that. What should I do about that? And the question itself arises out of your desire. The desire says, this moment is not good enough. I want to have a different moment. And then the mind has a certain image that if you would be enlightened, then you would feel like that. But you don't know that. So the mind is just projecting a better future. And it thinks if I have enlightenment, it will feel better. Now, if you see how the mind is always out of desire because it cannot really accept the present moment, is creating a projection of a better future, and it thinks that if you would get this enlightenment, then you will feel better, everything will be better. And therefore it draws you into the future. You are in the time aspect, and it's only the mind that creates time. As soon as you see the mechanism itself, the seeing of that mechanism is already the freedom. That's why it doesn't take any time to become enlightened. And it's also not you that can become enlightened. There can be a thought, I'm enlightened. But you see, that's not you. So there's nobody enlightened, basically. There's just a seeing of the mind. And therefore an automatic understanding of how the mind works and how it's always creating a better future, a new question, because it wants a new answer, because it's not satisfied anymore. If you follow that thought, then you go into a rabbit hole and you will never really come out of it ever again. There is no end to it. But when you see the question, okay, what should I do? And you understand that even forming a question is just the mind, and you don't have to have an answer, because there is no answer, because the answer is just this present moment here right now, then you are no longer identified with the seeker. It can still seek, but who you really are, which is the seeing itself, is no longer really invested in that movement, and then it will starve. And that's it. You see? And that's it. You're no longer invested in it. Now, what about, like, let's say, for example, you feel stressed or anxious, you have that fear, or you have insecurity. Let's say, for an example, you suffer from fear on a daily basis. What happens if you have fear? And the mind automatically says or judges the fear. It's like, fear itself is a physical sensation. Then the mind comes in and says, it is unpleasant, and I want it to go away. Then the mind comes up with certain solutions that it has formed in the past. Like say, for example, there's like a moment that you don't feel comfortable in. Automatically the mind remembers a time from the past. It remembers, for example, when I watched my favorite TV show, then my fear disappeared. So the solution is, let's just watch my personal favorite TV show, then the fear will disappear. Or just drink alcohol, or do this and that. See how the mind itself forms a certain solution for you in the hopes of getting rid of the fear. And then you do it, and then maybe you will feel better for a small amount of time, You go into the disco, you feel good, you drink something, you come home, and then again you're being tortured by the fear. It's back again. Now, when you observe that whole process in yourself, then the mind itself comes to a certain understanding that no matter what I do, I cannot pull out the fear at its root. I can cut its branches, but they will grow again. But no matter what I do, no matter what kind of solution I'm coming up with, I can never fully get rid of fear. And in that moment, it's like almost like a shock. Because in that moment where you totally realize this, you see that you're ultimately powerless. With the mind, you cannot really get rid of fear. So what happens in that moment, when you totally see that, is that there's this fear, and there's absolutely no chance for you to escape from that fear. So you're totally there. And when automatically there's no movement away from fear anymore, because the brain itself understands that every attempt to escape from it will be a failure. So this very attempt to get rid of it is the self that is suffering from the fear, is the separate self that is suffering from the fear. And because the mechanism of escaping is no longer there, there is also no longer a self, because the self is not a real thing. It is just the mind trying to change the present moment. That's the self. When there is a deep understanding that you cannot escape your own internal state, however unpleasant it is. I mean, you can numb it down for a short while, but you can never fully pull out the roots of it. And there is no resistance anymore. There's an understanding that resisting it will not, liberate you. So you're totally there with the fear, you cannot do anything about it. But at the same time, because there is an understanding that there is no self that can do anything about it, there's also no self anymore, but there is only the fear. And the fear cannot survive where there is no self for long. But you really have to see it within yourself. When I'm telling you about this, your mind forms a new question. But how about this? How should I see how the mind is creating a new question right now? See how the mind's trying to understand it. That's what I'm saying. Don't try to not understanding if there is an automatic process of trying to understand already happening, but just see it. And know that it's like a new attempt of your ego trying to create more time. It wants to survive by trying to understand what I'm saying. So it is not in this video, it's not in the information itself that I'm giving you. It's just a pointer for you to see yourself. And once the mind understands itself, or basically it's not an understanding, an intellectual understanding, but once the consciousness, we could say, the pure witness sees how the mind is trying to understand all this stuff, then you can throw it away. There's no need to understand anything, because the witness itself doesn't need any understanding. As I said, there is no need for a question, there is no need for an answer. And then what about the fear? It cannot survive for very long. It might return again, it might go away again, but there's no need to fix it. There's no need to escape from it, because now it's just a sensation. And the thing that perpetuates the fear is the attempt to get rid of it, because the attempt to get rid of it is the ego. So there's an understanding that your attempt to get rid of the fear is futile. Because the thing that wants to get away from the fear is the very self that says, I have the fear. And therefore it sticks to you, it becomes an identity. And this timeless state cannot be attained through time. You can watch how the mind creates time, and the position from which you are watching the creation of psychological time is already the timeless. All right.